In this video, I'm going to show you how to use Kanban to create the most objective productivity chart for team accountability and sometimes competition or collaboration to keep with good accountability for your team that there is. A good objective tool is fantastic for measuring progress, as productivity outcomes are very essential, especially on a weekly basis, to measure exactly what you're shooting for to get done in a week and what you actually got done that week and what you're still working on. This is also going to show how to incorporate SMART goals into each week's objectives. So as you know here, SMART goals are basically specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, timed. So when we say specific, what we're talking about is we want some degree of specificity to say, okay, that's when I crossed the finish line. You know that you can check it off. It's the goal is written in a way where you know when you've reached a specific done point. That's when you know you've reached a level of good specificity. Measurable, you know it's something that is measured based on also an endpoint right here, but I'll show you some examples. Achievable, so you want this to be 1 week only, and these are basically 1 week sprints that start over every week. Realistic and timed. Timed is basically this is going to be a 1 week deal. So how to use Kanban. So let me show you here. So this is Kanban. Kanban is where you have status columns, basically. Very simple status columns. And what we have is we start here with this weekly SMART goals. So every Monday this starts over. Every Friday, or sometimes we allow it to go to Saturday, there's the finish line. And the finish line is this done pile right here at the very end. So this is Monday. Today's Monday, so we're just starting. Well, no, it's not Monday, but it's the beginning of the week. Let's just say for this example, this right here, this weekly SMART goals. That's where you start. This is where you put the specific, measurable, attainable, realistic. What is it? Achievable, timely. This is where you put your SMART goal here. And you put it in the column where it says weekly SMART goals. Once you start something in progress, you move it to the in progress column. You don't move it into the in progress column until it's actually in progress. And you don't skip that and jump right into Wednesday on track unless it's gone through the in progress. So that's an important point. And then once that goal is done for the week, then it is put into the done pile. Now, here's what's so great about Kanban. If you and there's a few rules so that it works well. Number one, you want to put your goal in past tense. So what does this look like when it's completed? And that's what you want to write it as. It's not appropriate to say working on XYZ. That's not an end result. That's not an outcome. And so it's not a SMART goal. So you want to put it as past tense. So here's an example here. So created Loom and guide to set up how to set up YouTube, right? So here's the steps, and here's an example of how to set up a YouTube account. So that's a very good SMART goal. And once you let's say you get started working on this SMART goal, it's placed in past tense. You can now drag it over to in progress. And I'm showing you this example of Kanban using Miro. Miro is a fantastic team collaborative platform. And all you have to do is you go over to the sidebar. It's very simple to set this whole thing up. You just basically click on Kanban. Here we go. you just click on this Kanban feature here. And the Kanban, when you click on that, it's going to show you these different columns, and you can name them whatever you want. For our team, it works best to have SMART goals column, where you start at the beginning of the week. You have the in progress column. So once you are actually working on the project, you get to put it in progress. On Wednesday, this is the midweek, the supervisor checks in with the individual and asks what is not Wednesday on track and what is required to get it to the Wednesday on track. So are we getting a little too perfectionist? Are we, are we not breaking our goals down into small enough bite-sized pieces where we can see progress? Or is it always stuck in progress, right? So what you want to do, if you can as a team, try to break these goals down, if you can, into very bite-sized, fun-sized candy bar size, like an hour or 2 hour blocks of something you want to achieve. That way you're moving more of these blocks over towards the next, let's say on Wednesday, we can now move it Wednesday on track. Now, once you achieve the goal, once it's done, you literally just drag it into the done pile. And now you've got something in the done pile. So our goal is to get as many, obviously, into the done pile as we can, because at the end of the week, the supervisor is going to take a screenshot of this and will highlight whatever's in the done pile. And all you have to do is you divide the number of what you've reached in the done pile by the total number of the cards, and that's your percentage of the week. And so it looks like this, basically, when you get done with it. You notice that in the done pile, you have all of these cards in the done pile, and you notice they're past tense. So checked all article statuses each morning, paused the 2 writers' work, discussed ideas for solving the previous articles from the 2 writers who don't have the vision with the leadership team, kept the belt rolling for the quality assurance editing, added 10 job-related articles to the character. You get the idea. So they're all in past tense. You see that they're all in the done pile, at least these ones. You take that number, you divide it by the total number, and then you've got the percentage that you've achieved. So this is your percentage, your objective percentage of productivity for the week. And this is a very objective measurement. So that's what we do, and we post it into the department leaders Slack channel because I think it's kind of a nice little. There's a little hint of competition. You can think of it as possibly gamifying the whole process, and so that is how it looks at the end of the week. So putting as many as you can into the done pile requires you to break it down into smaller and smaller pieces, which is really helpful to be able to tackle. You know, like they say, how do you eat an elephant? You break it down into bite-sized pieces. Okay? There's no penalties. There's no consequences. Really, it's more for self-awareness and it's for self-improvement. And really, it's a personal development tool to see if we're able to project out each week a reasonable projection for what can be produced, and then to hold yourself accountable with an objective measuring tool. So now you notice here with our tool, the Wednesday on track, if it doesn't make it to the done pile, basically it means it's either Wednesday on track in progress or weekly SMART goals. It's anything besides done. And so what you want to do, you notice there is a line here that if it doesn't reach to the done pile, it has to come all the way back and it has to be reconsidered. Did we break it down into small enough, realistic enough, measurable enough, specific bite-sized pieces? If not, basically anything that doesn't get achieved needs to go into the breakdown smaller pile. The breakdown smaller pile here at the end of the week as a department, as a supervisor, what I do is I delete all of the done. So first I take that picture so that everyone can see what's done and we celebrate. Then after we're taking that picture, I delete all the items in the done pile. Then I take everything that didn't make it to the done pile, and then I put those cards right here, for example. I would take that card and I would just place it into, here we go, into break down smaller for that individual. And that would require them, before they can put it back onto the next week, the following week, that we actually broke that goal down into a smaller piece. So for example, what I would see here is maybe instead of a loom, like a screen recording like I'm doing here, and a guide that created for setting up Google Analytics for this brand, maybe we need to break that down into one goal could be a guide that's created. The other goal could be a loom screen recording of one going through that guide, right? So that could be 2 SMART goals. And so then you can actually increase your odds of success of getting more to the done pile. So that's how we use our Kanban. So, and it's very simple to use. And so you make sure that, number one, if it goes into the breakdown smaller, that you actually break it down smaller and you don't just put it right back onto the next week, okay? There's always ways of breaking something down into a smaller bite, a smaller piece. So there's some rules here. Rule number 1, you write the goal as a past tense and you keep it small enough so that you can actually achieve several of these, okay? And so that past tense helps you to see what you actually are going to achieve or what you've achieved for the week. Number 2, you cannot move these are rules of the game. You cannot move it into the in progress until you're actually in progress. You cannot move it into the Wednesday on track until you've moved it into the in progress, okay? So what we would see when we didn't have that rule is we would see a big stack of these Wednesdays on track, and then come Friday, not a whole lot actually made it into the done pile. They were just assumed on track. They're like, oh, I could get it done by the end of the week, but then they were never started. And so if they're not started, they are not Wednesday on track. You have to be in progress before you can move to the Wednesday on track. These are important rules. Now, whatever you don't get done, like I said, that goes to the next week, but it must be broken down smaller. So that's the third thing that's important to remember, is it must be broken down smaller before it can jump onto the next week's SMART goals. So this is a way that we can all celebrate what is done. We can acknowledge, and as a team, we can celebrate everybody's objective achievements. We can also stay on the same page with what is how we're progressing as a team moving forward. This is very good for group collaboration. Another important thing, on Mondays, your supervisor must be able to articulate what we actually really want to get done based on the company vision. And so there's some responsibility there. If you're not able to proactively know exactly what needs to get done for your role, and maybe you're not practiced at projecting out the vision for what needs to be accomplished in your role, well, then somebody needs to help give you guidance on what's important for that next week. And so then it falls onto the supervisor to plan on Mondays to be able to communicate what needs to be done for their team. And then we can send that out into a Slack message, or just send that out to the individual and say, here's what I hope to have achieved this week for you to be able to achieve this week. Please break this down into SMART goals, put them onto your Kanban. The rule is, as a supervisor, that we're supposed to communicate on Monday everything that needs to get onto Kanban. They have until noon on Tuesday to get everything onto Kanban that they want to get onto Kanban. And of course, if there's more that gets achieved throughout the week, sure, add to the done pile. certain things that are unexpected, that have been asked for you to do, yeah, throw it in here, throw it into the in progress. You're like, oh, I've been asked. My supervisor asked me to work on this additional thing unexpectedly. Just jump that right into the in progress pile, and add to it throughout the week so that we can all celebrate what gets done. But the important thing is whatever has been delegated on Monday, there needs to be what's called closed loop communication. So in the emergency department, let's say the doctor asks the nurse while they're running a code, and there's CPR happening, there's medications that are being asked to be given, there's certain orders that are giving to be able to save a patient's life. Well, there is what's called closed loop communication, which means the doctor asks, we need to give this amount of epinephrine to the patient. Please do that. Then the nurse responds and basically reflects back and says, okay, I will give this amount of epinephrine for this patient. Now, when it's happened, the nurse communicates also, this much has been given of epinephrine. So that's a closed loop communication where somebody says, I need this done. This is the objective. And then somebody responds and says, okay, so that needs done. And then they respond when it is done. So their closed loop here is typing it out on Kanban. And that is their way of communicating back, saying, I understand what you need done. And I've broken it down into manageable sized pieces. This is a way for the supervisor to be able to see, okay, do they really understand the vision of what I've communicated? Do they really understand what I've asked to be done? And what, as a company, where we're headed? If we can see it on an objective Kanban in progress, then the answer is yes. It has been understood clearly what needs to be done this week. Okay? So that is how we use Kanban. That is how we break down the goals into very small, manageable pieces. There's a final piece to this which is very helpful. As an organization, if your team member is involved in creating and expanding and innovating, then we find it very helpful in our team to be able to label these items as either maintenance items or creation items or growth items. For example, so anything that is a regular maintenance item, something that is like something that is homeostasis, something that is keeping the system running the same as it is already created, that's a maintenance item. Anything that expands the company and grows the company into something other than what it currently is, then that is a growth item. We color-coded those. Blue means maintenance. When you have a maintenance item, you color-code it blue. When you have a growth item, something that is expanding the company beyond what it has previously done, or beyond its current system into new and better systems, or of expanding systems, that is green. So you think of like watering a plant, for example. Water, that's a maintenance. You just maintain that plant. Green is a new plant, planting a new something. That green is something that is going to be added to our systems. So this is important because as a business owner, if you have somebody in a creative role, are they just maintaining and just showing up? And it's important. Maintenance items are not any less important than your growth and expansion items. But this is helpful to see, are we spending most of our time just maintaining what we have, or are we expanding and growing? And so at the end of the week, we can also give a percentage of blue versus green and say, hey, well done. You've done 60% maintenance and 40% expansion. That is fantastic. 40% growth. And that's very helpful for us. So let's say, for example, created a video to explain Kanban right here. So this is, for mine, this is my SMART goal, for example. I can now move this to the in progress because I am in progress of doing this video. And on Wednesday, I would, if I was still working on this video, which I'm going to actually have it done at the end of this, I could move it to the Wednesday on track. At the end of this video, I could then move it into the done pile, right? It's a green item because this explanation of the Kanban, this is going to be a new addition. It's going to be a guide that we have that explains how we work through our weekly goals. And so I'm creating a video, but I'm also creating a guide, right? So I create a guide and a video explaining the rules of the game for our objective measurement tool here, this Kanban. That's green. This brand readiness guide delegated out. I also actually did that. So that can be in the done pile, but it's also green because these are new things that we're doing as a company that we haven't done really previous. Blue is typed up week's main priorities sent to team members to break down and add to Kanban. That's something I do every week. That's something that's a regular maintenance item. And so I put that as blue. So you want to know, like, what is a regular routine maintenance item versus what is something that grows your company. Both are equal importance, okay? That is how we use Kanban. These are the simple, you move from this column of the weekly SMART goals that are supposed to be done on Tuesday by noon, because it's a closed loop communication back from your supervisor saying, I understand what needs done. Now, if you're very proactive, you would have some idea based on previous conversations and based on just understanding the direction of the company vision. You might actually be able to come up with a lot of really good SMART goals on your own, and that would be awesome proactivity to be able to have all of those already put into your Kanban. That would really be so amazing. And then, but the important thing is it's due by Tuesday at noon to at least have your initial Kanban laid out. As you move forward and progress through each of these SMART goals, like I said, moves into the next column, in progress. And then Wednesday, the important thing is that the supervisor then meets with the individual and says, okay, let's look at each of these items and let's explore each of these items. Tell me about created Loom guide set up for Vimeo. Why do you think that would be Wednesday on track? What's missing? Is there any way we could break it down maybe even smaller? And so this is a chance for the supervisor to really help the individual achieve as much as they can into the done pile. That's when really you show as a leader that you're going to help your individual reach their goal. And then by Friday, you could really reach back out and be like, okay, guys, let's finish this week strong. What can we do to get it into the done pile? And sometimes people are shooting for A+, work when we really need to possibly consider getting certain things done so that we can perfect it later maybe. And be okay sometimes, like, is there something that we're really trying to get an A+ on that we're slowing down all the other goals? Maybe we need to shoot for B- to get something to the done pile, and work on perfecting it maybe next week. So that is how, as a team, we use this Kanban to have objective measurement tools. Perhaps there could be rewards based on, if you achieve 70%, then the next week you could work from home on Fridays. There's certain ways of rewarding the objective measurement tools. But what's nice about this tool is we all have this public accountability board, and we can see as we're progressing through who's working on what, who's getting what done, and how we can all celebrate all of these individual SMART goals that get done. That's how we be more productive, and this Kanban board is a game changer for productivity. Now, remember, productivity is not just working hard, not just working on. And so in our team, working on is almost a curse word. we want to speak in terms of specific outcomes. Okay, so what is your specific outcome that's going to be done? I don't want to hear what you're working on. I want to hear what is going to specifically be done. And productivity itself has a lot more to do with units produced or what's produced per unit of time. And so we want to know what is actually produced as an objective outcome result per week done. And this is how we do it as a team. I'm very proud of my team. We are awesome. We are an awesome team. And this is very exciting to be able to see this tool used and see everybody getting better and better at projecting out at the beginning of their week. It's a skill that requires practice, but it's really cool to see everybody improving and getting better at their projections of SMART goals and being able to break larger tasks down into smaller tasks and to see everybody rally around to help get things into the done pile. And that is how we use Kanban for objective measurements, to gamify and to add almost a little bit of competition, but just the fun-spirited achieving of high productivity. Hi, Bruce. This is going to just be like a 2-minute loom. I just wanted to show you one area of concern that we have in our time reporting. This is as we are looking at Aaron's time report for the 17th through the 30th. He, if they're working about full time, which is 20 days per month, the big concern I have, as you can see over here, he's only got 10. This first column is just is not part of it, but if you were to exclude that first row, there's really only 10 times that he logged in, and some of these are I don't know how he's logged in for almost 12 hours straight with intense focus, but somehow he's got 11.37 hours there logged in, and then he's got 10.37 hours logged in on this other time. He's got almost 9 hours here, over 8, 6. And what's just mostly concerning to me is he's not putting anything in the notes, which I told him is the most important part. So I know this is something that you had asked for about a week or two ago, is the importance of accounting for what should take how long and whatnot. And this is the only area that we could really, like, when they start their time, they need to specify what's in the notes, what they're specifically working on, that should usually relate to the Kanban. And I don't see anything except for this one that just says Kanban. And if he spent 7 hours trying to create his Kanban, that's probably too much time to spend a whole day getting his Kanban set up. So, this is just it's a big concern, because I'm also very budget sensitive in terms of, like, what are we paying for? I do really greatly appreciate his productivity last week with the Loom videos that he created and the guides, and so I think it was actually a very productive week, but he's not really following the system that we have set up with Harvest. What he needs to do when he pushes play is right before he pushes play, he needs to write down in the little notes area what he's going to be working on during that time. And then when he takes a break, he pushes stop on Harvest. And then when he goes back from his break, then before he pushes play again, he needs to have something in the notes that says specifically what he's going to be working on with his time. So I wanted to just bring that to your attention, so that way you can have a conversation with him about every time, if we're going to be paying him according to Harvest, we need to have something specific in the notes for what he's working on. I know that I thought we were pretty clear with him a while back on that everything needs to be specifically accounted for, and so this is the way to be specifically accounting for it, is to have it in the notes. I could show you how Jaren. So Jaren's. Yeah, I'll show you Jaren's real quick. So Jaren, let's see. Here's your time. So Jaren does a really great job. Surprise, surprise. He's there we go. Google Docs. This is Jaren has he does a good job remembering to clock in and clock out, because you see there's just so many more. I mean, look at this. Like there's like 61 occurrences. He's so exacting. He's taking breaks. He's stopping and taking breaks. I mean, look at this. He has just on the 19th alone. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 blocks of when he is logging in and logging out. Very specifically, he's also putting in his notes here, saying exactly how many hours. I mean, look at this. This is just awesome what he's doing here. So he'll work on a project, team collaboration typed up. To Emily, the QA metrics that I have defined. Met with Dina to define our red thread process. Edit the 6 articles, send them to QA. I mean, it's just very specific what he's doing, and it's very specifically accounted for when he clocks in, when he clocks out. And AA is just not clocking in and clocking out, and he's definitely not clocking out for breaks, and he's also just not clocking in every day that he works. And so I mean, this is awesome what Jaren is doing here. It's very, like, we're able to actually take this and be like, okay, from this data, if we were to filter let's see, if we were to here we go. I'll just do it right here. So right here, and we create a filter. We can sort. We can come over here and sort the notes now. This is what I think is the most helpful, is to be able to sort the notes alphabetically so that we can group them together. So all the check-ins that they did, so I guess that's our huddles and whatnot, is this time here during that block of time. All of our then you go down a little bit, and it's like, okay, editing. So any of the, and I talked to him about trying to stay consistent with what he's naming, but like message the writers this morning. So that some of those messaging the writers, meet with Beatrice, meeting with Aaron. This is how long he took for Loom's Squirrely Content Ops Guide. Totally fine. That's like the biggest chunk that he's got in this whole area is some intense focus. Anyways, I promised this would be like 2 minutes. So sorry this is dragging out. You could hopefully double speed this, but then you look at the notes of AA here, and there's just nothing in it. And he only has 10 times that were even accounted for. So if he's taking breaks, he really needs to push pause. And if he's logging in, he needs to remember to log in and not just like, oh, I forgot, and then put him in. I talked to him briefly today, and he said that he keeps forgetting. And so this is one thing, like if he forgets, he just can't get paid, or something. Like we need specific entries. Otherwise, he'll end up with something that shows 81 hours, and and who knows if it's really as clean and crisp as Jaren's 66 hours, but now we're paying AA more. So I don't know. It's just a conversation I wanted to show you this, and then you can have with AA.